Okay, so for the debate, I'm debating for Kirby.
For the debate, it's BZ. I'm debating in favor of Medio El Drago.
Okay.
All right. So, can you give me your argument as to how, in a 1v1 fight, Kirby would beat out Medio El Drago?
So first and foremost, I have no idea of Beyblade scaling, but as
Okay.
for Kirby scaling,
Mm-hmm.
um, let me just get a baseline real quick. I'm sending the scan now, but we can clearly see Kirby completely cracking a roughly Earth-sized planet in completely in half.
Okay. And by the way, just real quick, just for clarification, as it's my first one, for the scans, if I need to prove anything that happened from the show, I just send screenshots into there?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. So, would you scale Kirby at planetary strength then?
No, this is just a baseline because
Okay, just a baseline. Got you.
I have no idea where Beyblade scale.
Yeah, sure. I'm not sure how you would. I mean, if you want to scale cracking the planet in two, sure. I'm not sure how we would scale necessarily against that planet. When I mean, El Drago can absorb the entire energy from planet Earth itself, so he has that. I mean, if we look at feet specifically, I mean, let me see if I can pull up the scans for it specifically. 1 second. And yeah, so I'm going here and the best thing I'll be able to send, at least for this power scale, with the scan, is going to be the AI overview, as this show doesn't specifically have a scene that can show exactly what it's describing, at least in terms of his absorption, or at least ones that I can't find publicly online. But here's the AI overview here, just showing that yes, El Drago, specifically Lightning El Drago and Meteor El Drago, get power from Earth, but it's more about absorbing negative emotions, fear and hatred from people in battles, fueled by its cosmic origin as a dark star fragment, making it stronger as it feeds on the Earth's dark energy and defeats other Beyblades. So in that sense, most of El Drago's power will come from stealing other people's power, feeding off of the power of other people, which on the planet, in the Beyblade universe, within everybody being in there, is an infinite power source, as there's always people in the planet and there hasn't been a world destruction incident yet. And when it came to the almost world destructing incident, that came because of El Drago's power in season 1.
Okay, can we agree on a setting for the debate? Like, where's this taking place?
Sure. Would you agree for it to be taking place in the Beyblade verse, as I believe all of Kirby's powers would translate without issue?
Yeah. Okay. Mm.
Now, can for example, what in battle can Kirby do against El Drago to stop him?
Well, Kirby has shown the ability with the literal power of love. I'm not sure if that's what it's exactly called,
Mm-hmm.
but it essentially what it does is purify people with dark energy or negative emotion.
Right. Okay.
Either or.
So my counter argument towards that point would be we've seen that happen in the Beyblade anime, where the power of love would be more emphasized as the Blader spirit. Jinga having one of the greatest Blader spirits, or the most powerful canonic Blader spirit in the anime, and I can pull up scans for that if needed, showing that him in season one needed his and literally every other Blader on the planet's Blader spirit, aka their powers of love, in order to overtake El Drago and the Dark Power itself when it was uncontrolled in season one. Meaning that the literal canon plot armor character plus the entire population of the Earth in this verse had to put on their all powers of love in their Blader spirit together to even have a sliver of a chance of beating El Drago in season one. And that was before Ryuga and El Drago were able to tame and control the dark power like they do in season two, which is the one that I'm mainly arguing for, which is his peak, which is Medio El Drago. So now we have somebody with the scaling reference of the entire population, which I can get a scan for that and show that everybody in the world was putting their bays up to try to give their Blader spirit to Jinga and Pegasus during season one. It shows that not only is the dark power scalable to about 7 billion of your powers of love, but on top of that, it's also more refined and controlled in season two to the point where it's even more deadly. So the power of love wouldn't really stop Ryuga, as Ryuga overcame the dark power himself. He has that same ability within himself as a character.
Hmm.
So is there anything that
The
Kirby can do
amount,
that's about 7 billion scale power of love?
I would argue that Kirby's single power of love would be more effective than all 7 billion. Since
If
it's
if Kirby's power of love was more effective than all 7 billion, and the debate currently, as we've agreed beforehand, is taking place in the Beyblade verse, and canonically inside the Beyblade verse, the Blader spirit carried by Jinga, I will put the scan in a second. As a matter of fact, let me go pull it up right now, is the most powerful Blader spirit inside of the whole anime. How would we say that when that can't even go up against Ryuga, what would make it so that that needed to be aided with about, I don't know, 6 point something other billion people at that time on the planet with Blader Spirit, and that doesn't just include the main character Jinga. That includes all the other insanely strong side characters like Kiyoya, like Tsubasa, like everyone else who went against Ryuga during that time and gave him a hard time. If we look at all of those power feats in contrast inside of the same verse, that means that by default, Jinga would have the standard of what's the most powerful one there, unless you can show how Kirby's power of love against a certain opponent can scale past the dark power.
hmm.
If you fail to
Like,
show how the power of love can scale over the dark power, the power of love is ineffective against Meteor El Drago, and you'll have to pick
Give
a
me one
different attack or
second, though,
method of
Flamingo.
success for the fight.
Give me 1 second, though, Flamingo.
so, question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, what theoretically, what would the Beyblade be able to do, like in the vacuum of space, far away from any source of negative energy?
Yeah, sure. Outside of the space of any negative energy, Meteor El Drago has a very unique thing, and I can let me. Matter of fact, I've been talking about sending the scans, so I'm sorry, but let me go ahead and scan some of them real quick. Bladers, give me a quick pause. I'm going to send my scans that I've mentioned so far, and then I'm going to continue talking with you real fast, just to make sure I'm not skipping over anything for you.
I'm not racist, but when I walk around the town and I see a bunch of black people creating some violence, something inside of me makes me want to lynch them.
Okay, so this I'm just the one I just put inside scans. This is the exact scene of the little yellow aura that you see around Jinga. There is where all of everyone's Blader spirit on the planet ended up entering him during his fight against Ryuga that they needed to fight, and that's what Ryuga was trying to absorb as well. So that there would be the representation of the scan that I was talking about beforehand, and then also in reference to your last question, Ryuga. By tossing. Let me see. And then here, I'll go ahead and show this one real fast. Medio El Drago. Let's see if I can find the exact scene for you. Wins without launching. And this can prove by itself that on top of El Drago being powerful with the combination of Ryuga being there as that El Drago by itself can also stand its own ground without it. On top of this, I can show through the AR overview, and on top of not only the AR overview, but the scan from the actual show in the moment that it happened. So here is a picture of the moment that he ended up throwing Medio El Drago. So usually in the Beyblade show, you'd have to launch your Beyblade from a launcher in order for it to gain speed and win a battle. In this scene, he was being ganged up against by 4 people simultaneously, and then a dozen others joined afterwards. He started laughing. He threw his Beyblade and spun it from his hand on the floor. And because El Drago has the uncanny ability to feed off other people's energy and power, or by itself, even if something happened to it, be able to gain energy or absorb it from the cosmic star that it was born out of, from there, you end up getting an El Drago that, but from a handspin, ended up defeating an entire jump crowd against him of about 12 to 16 people. So if we're talking about in a vacuum, without Ryuga, without anybody else next to him, if something were to attack El Drago, the only thing that would happen is an absorption of it. And the problem with Kirby fighting El Drago is most of Kirby's ability, or great ability, other than his weapons, which would see him use his main 3 weapons, would be the fact that he's able to absorb and take the other person's ability and use it against them. That's where it fails against El Drago, because El Drago doesn't have an innate ability. His ability is stealing other people's abilities, which means you have nothing to steal to go against El Drago in that point. And if you do decide to perfectly copy him, El Drago has won perfectly copied left side of matchups beforehand. I'll put in the scan of him beating Gravity Perseus in season 2, which, by the way, Gravity Perseus had to get bailed out by 2 other Beyblades that had to use both of their combined power to stop him, and they were part of the Team Europe, which was one of the final teams that was inside of the Beyblade series, minus the American team, and they were one of the canonically strongest national teams that there were there. So all 3 of them against a single Ryuga were trembling in fear, and because it was also a left spinning Beyblade, meaning that his spin steel wouldn't work as effectively, Ryuga still easily walked through that fight. So his Beyblade is built to last in a same type situation. So all of Kirby's effective power, which would be ability stealing or using the ability against the opponent, does nothing but help El Drago. And because Kirby's not El Drago and not built for that stamina duration, then El Drago wins by default, by the sense of, hey, you can't kill him. He never stops spinning and he never stops working against you. And any attack that you hit him with, he'll absorb and make stronger. And if you try to copy him, he outlasts you. So can you explain to me in which way he would be able to beat El Drago in this universe?
Okay. I just have a question. Is
Yeah,
El
sure.
Drago capable of any fourth wall breaking or metaphysical abilities?
Explain what you mean by metaphysical abilities or fourth wall breaking.
So theoretically, if I were to, like, if let's say we're both in a comic and I
Mm-hmm.
simply whip the panels that you are in out of the comic from within the comic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does he have any, like, would he have any abilities akin to that?
Akin to it, if we're talking specifically in the anime, uh, probably if we're talking fourth wall breaks, no, as there are no fourth wall breaks, period, in the entire show. So the show and
Would
the
he
universe,
have any counter to those?
any counter to a fourth wall break?
Yeah.
So would we count, for example, or if we're talking metaphysics, are we counting immaterial existence as well?
Yes.
Okay, if we're counting immaterial existence, then the dragon form of El Drago would still be able to counteract that. Because that one there, while it can appear in reality, has also been shown against the fight in Pisces, like we see with Jenga versus Ryu when it comes to the Pisces fight, that they can enter other dimensions within it, and their base still contain their cosmic powers from so. On top of that, he does come from a star fragment and does have cosmic ability on top of his dragons being released from the energy of his bay as well. So the energy that gets released, it does have the ability to go to other dimensions, as demonstrated by not only his bay but other bays as well in the past.
But how you're explaining it, it sounds like it goes to other dimensions, but still within the show, not like other non-fictional dimensions.
Sure. So if you're unless you're saying that, are you saying that the only way that Kirby wins is literally running away from the fight, or just hopping into another
No. What I'm
dimension?
about
Because
to
that's just
show a
ducking the fate.
scan.
That's not winning the fight.
What I'm about to show a scan shows that Kirby is capable of interacting and completely destroying parts of his own manga from within it. Therefore, he should he should outscale whatever dimensional hopping from within the universe you're referring to.
So if he's able to do that within his own manga, I would grant that. Issue is, we granted about 20 minutes ago that this was happening in the Beyblade verse. And in the Beyblade verse, the only thing that has that self-consuming power is Diablo Nemesis at the very end.
But it's not specified that this is only his own manga. Is
Okay, sure. So
never
even if we
referred
didn't,
to.
sure. So let's take it on the chin that even if we don't specify it's his own manga and we count this feat, right? How does that explain to me where El Drago gets eliminated from existence there, and what would happen in that case?
Well, I feel like it would be natural that even if something has a physical counter to it, if it's a metaphysical thing that transcends its existence, that really would not matter whatsoever.
Now, when we see Kirby, for example, in the panel that you just showed, is there any panel that suggests that everything that just got inhaled by Kirby is utterly destroyed and is non-existing anymore?
We don't see Taranza in the manga after this. We never see him again.
Is there confirmation that they're completely non-existent? Could it be a possibility that they're still inside of Kirby?
I would, even if there isn't there, I would feel that being inside of Kirby with no way out and having no way to affect him would
Mm-hmm.
count as a mission.
Sure. So being inside of Kirby with no way out, as I've said beforehand, El Drago doesn't need a launcher. El Drago can get energy just from whatever Kirby's doing. If Kirby moves too much, El Drago starts getting power. If Kirby tries to remove El Drago starts getting power. Swallowing El Drago does nothing for Kirby but kill him from the inside instead of the outside that time. Because again, while he may have ability to, because I guess this is where the main conflict I'm seeing from your perspective might be, at least in the scaling of Kirby, how we're using it right now, is while Kirby can have, like, for example, he can copy a single ability at a time. Then he can discard it or lose it, and it doesn't permanently weaken anything. El Drago, you know what he can do? He'll absorb everything simultaneously that Kirby's doing. The power that El Drago steals from people isn't temporary like Kirby's is. It's permanent. So that means every time he sifts a bit of power away from Kirby, it doesn't just have a temporary stat boost and then go away afterwards like Kirby's does. He keeps that Kirby power. So while you can temporarily take a little bit of mine, I can permanently take away yours. And if I permanently keep drain stealing you or life stealing you, and you use the attack you showed in your panel, well, Kirby dies by default. Because if Kirby is not infinitely sustainable, or if you can't prove that he has infinite regeneration to the speed that would be faster than El Drago draining it, then there's no proof that you have that he would survive against El Drago even by performing that fourth wall breaking move, as he would just break through Kirby in that case.
Well, actually, this wouldn't work because Kirby has infinite reserve of power. So,
Wait, yes, it would work, because even with an infinite reserve of power that Kirby has, El Drago has an infinite scaling of power, because as is shown beforehand, there's no cap on El Drago's power, as it's a permanent absorption, and the power is completely dependent on the absorption of other things. If he's infinitely scaling in his resistance, that means El Drago infinitely scales. At best, Kirby draws. At worst, Kirby gets destroyed by El Drago.
well, see, that's the thing. Just because it infinitely scales doesn't mean that it directly correlates to that infinity. Meaning, yes, while you're infinite, like, think of it like this. If I have a bucket that is infinitely large and you are constantly forever taking out a smidgen of water just at
Mm-hmm.
a constant, that bucket will never ever be empty.
Granted, that's with the assumption that there's a power scale difference in between those two. When granted, if we're talking about a draining ability and being able to do both of them, given your power of love argument earlier, El Drago would scale about 7 billion times stronger against Kirby in that sense. But even if we don't take that argument into account and we just say, okay, let me give you another analogy in that case. If we're talking about what's it called? There will always be equal force against what's in motion. So what's moving will always have will always be forced like equally in motion and against it in order to stop something, right? So when we look at that type of stuff, if we have an immovable object being Kirby and an unstoppable force being El Drago, the best Kirby can do if he can't damage El Drago, because remember, every hit that you give El Drago, he just absorbs. That's like, I mean, I heard people talking about Mike Tyson earlier. That's kind of like fighting Mike Tyson, and every punch you give him, doesn't weaken him. It just makes him stronger. Never blows him out. And let's say you have the perfect defense, that's fine, but you never stop getting attacked by Tyson. Tyson never stops fighting. Tyson never loses that fight. So again, in any theoretical verse, at least specifically the one that we're talking about right now, El Drago doesn't lose that fight to Kirby because El Drago, by definition, will never stop fighting. And if he never stops fighting and Kirby does not have the same stamina capabilities that he does, then it's over. Unless he has an infinite stamina capability, an infinite fighting capability, which he does not, unless you can show me something that scales that, it's impossible for him to beat El Drago realistically in a fight because power for power, he can't outpower him because it just works against him. Stamina for stamina, he can't outlast him because anything he tries to do to beat El Drago, he literally beats him out too. So again, and even when El Drago's dormant, any attack against the dormant El Drago just makes him stronger too and weakens you. And take in mind, the longer this fight progresses, the weaker Kirby gets. As I said earlier, El Drago does not have a cap on the infinite scale, and his power uniquely comes from the absorption of whatever energy Kirby's giving. So if Kirby's consistently exerting attacking force on El Drago or trying to put resisting force on El Drago while he's inside of him, well, unfortunately, that doesn't do anything to El Drago. It just makes him stronger. So there's nothing that you've given so far that shows that Kirby can take out El Drago in his verse, even including the Kirby manga.
Okay, right. So, first off, this doesn't disprove me when you take into account I did say Kirby does have infinite stamina, being his infinite amount of power, which I just sent a scan for. Second, Kirby does not have to keep an ability within inside of him. He can easily discard it, completely erasing its existence from reality.
Can we see that being shown in the panel?
I can pull it up right now.
That the existence would be completely taken away, even because remember, we included the immaterial as well, which means you have to do away with the dragons that come from him as well. So unless Kirby, by blowing out whatever's inside him, gets rid of it on all planes of existence, material and immaterial, El Drago's still existing. So is there anything while you pull up the panel that you're doing right now? Is there anything that you can offer that Kirby can do so far that hasn't been offered yet that would take out El Drago, or at least have him more than a draw win?
Well, as far as what I'm saying, I still think Kirby keeping him inside of him and then just
Well, that's an old art. We've already dealt with that one. Let's move to another one. Is there anything else we haven't stated yet that Kirby can do that El Drago can't counter just as effectively or do better than Kirby himself?
That shit was so fucking ass, my nigga.
who just said that?
Eric, I didn't just grant the analogy. I granted the analogy and showed how that would still help me win. There's a difference.
We can debate about it.
Yeah.
We could debate about it. Sorry for you, debater. Sorry, but why are you silent? That's a concession.
What'd you say?
Hold on.
Stop conceding, Simon. Debate on whether or not debating is debating.
Because I mean, unless if you can't provide that panel with immaterially going out, it's over. Because that was the only argument that you've given that had some water to it was the manga arc, was the manga eating arc, and that one's been taken out already. So unless it shows that immaterially everything's taken out too, which I highly doubt is coming off of there, prove me wrong. It would be fair to do it, but I don't think that you can provide anything up to this point that's new, because I haven't heard it yet, of how Kirby takes out El Drago or stops him from fighting. Because objectively, it's almost like you can't against him. The same infinite Kirby arguments or immortal Kirby arguments that you use can all get invalidated based off of El Drago's baseline abilities. So once Kirby goes up against somebody that doesn't rely on their powers to win, or doesn't rely on their own energy to win, it's over for Kirby because that's all he does. So I mean,
So since you were able to use an AI prompt, I feel like it is okay if I use one.
yeah, go for it. Yeah, how does that prove that he was able to get rid of things immaterially? Because we've already agreed that he has infinite power. That doesn't we've shown that he has infinite power. So does El Drago. That's a cool story. We can both get a cookie for that one. But I mean, and I've shown how copying El Drago's abilities doesn't do anything but hurt Kirby in the process and help strengthen El Drago. So what does that do other than help my argument? Hello.
Hold on. I'm just because I might actually just be able to find the scan flat out.
Yeah, you're all good. Don't worry.
Bro, how's that talking shit? Wait, what?
Simon Rhetoric Amp. Y'all heard that? He sounded so much better for a second.
No, actually, why was he speaking like a normal person?
Wait, hold on. Let me unmute him. Simon, say something.
Bro, like all I said was that how was that talking shit?
Okay, it's back. Never mind. The 2-second like Rhetoric Amp though? Damn.
Simon uses his actual voice and then switches back to the random bullshit.
Bro, what?
Or use your real voice, bro. You sound so much more rhetorical.
Wait, why did he low-key mic up just to regurgitate what Punk Rider was saying?
Because, bro, I needed to make sure that he really understood it, bro.
Okay,
Bro,
no, I do have the AI. I do have the AI.
Yeah, go for it. Okay, so here's the problem with this one. We in Squeak Squad, if you discard them, did we said that is Squeak Squad part of the Kirby manga? Is that what we're
We
talking
did
about in
not
reference here? Or are we talking about the
specify.
game?
We didn't specify which Kirby. I could have been talking about a composite. I could have been talking about either one. We did not specify. You did not force that. So I don't think it's fair for you to backtrack.
I don't think I'm backtracking. I think I'm just keeping it to the fact that we said about the beginning of the debate this was happening inside of the Beyblade verse, and on top of it happening in the Beyblade verse, that I said that even if I granted the manga, it would still help. But I'm not sure where this is tracking into, because I'm pretty sure everybody heard me say that we were staying inside of the Beyblade verse, and then even when you granted the manga, that I said even if we were to grant that, that I would still be taking it. So where
Well,
does
by
this come
that
into play as
logic,
backtracking other than me just staying into my verse that we agreed to both?
debate would be impossible because this is one of Kirby's games. You discarding that is you discarding Kirby's existence entirely, meaning this debate is impossible to have because Kirby does not exist inside the Beyblade universe. That's why this is a cross-verse debate.
Correct. And you agreed for the battle to be taking place inside of the Beyblade universe. So
Yeah.
Kirby has crossed over into the Beyblade universe. So can you explain to me how an ability that he has from a game translates to the verse?
He
And
canonically
you were using manga panels for 1 second. Now we're using the game. What are we using?
This is a composite Kirby. You never forced me to specify.
If we're going composites and we never force each other to specify, can I go composite El Drago then?
Well, you went out of your way to specify that this is happening in the Beyblade anime.
Okay, perfect. So let's use the composite El Drago from all of the Beyblade seasons then. Since it's happening inside the Beyblade verse, I'll use everything in the Beyblade verse on top of that too. Sure. So give me 2 seconds. Let me get my panels.
All that would have happened is like Minato would have pulled up again, would have been like, nigga,
Yo,
what the
stop
fuck
singing
are
the
you
sound,
doing?
bro.
I would have just
Stop
like put
singing
the
the
seal
sound.
back on.
Don't lie, bro.
My nigga, that's crazy, but I don't remember asking.
Alright, bro.
Oh wait, which overview are you using? Because I'm seeing conflicting reports on that Kirby erasing things from reality.
You have to specify within the lore.
And even if we specified within the lore, looking at the definition that's given by the AI, Kirby does erase things from reality in his pocket dimension. So how
And we've
would
already established
no, wait. Hold on. That's not my question. My question is, how does El Drago, what does Kirby do to get El Drago to his pocket dimension?
we've already established that he would eat El Drago.
And we've already established how that doesn't work for Kirby and that loses him the fight. So
That
how
does
does he win the
not
fight
an
out of losing
immediate.
it from swallowing El
Not
Drago?
an immediate loss. That's not an immediate. That's not an immediate loss.
So how long would it take Kirby to do so, to go to that dimension with El Drago inside
He
of him?
doesn't go there. He just decides, oh, I don't want this, and it's gone.
I'm just not understanding how, if you're saying that that's the power he's going to use against El Drago, still consistent with my previous argument, how is it possible that that power is not also going to be absorbed by him? If we've seen him tank every single power period and absorb every power thrown at him, even from a dead standstill, what is to say that the power of him supposedly getting ejected doesn't eject Kirby instead?
Because wait, for him to be erased and ejected from the pocket dimension and therefore erased,
Yes.
because it's with inside of Kirby, and since this is a composite Kirby, if I pull up the Kirby right back at you anime scan, we know that Kirby is capable of going in and inside of his own pocket dimension and leaving perfectly fine.
Okay, so best case scenario, Kirby gets sent to his own dimension and comes back and tries to do the whole thing over again. Worst case scenario, he's stuck fighting El Drago inside of him because remember, it's not just him taking a hit and tanking it, it's him getting his power seeped and stolen every attack that El Drago has, which at the RPMs that he's going about inside of a tiny space like Kirby's body, unless you want to show me his anatomy showing that the inside of his body is a completely giant vacuous hollow tank that has nothing to hit or nothing that gets affected by it. Unfortunately, well, there's not really much that there's done there, because if Eldrago gets consumed by Kirby, there is a finite amount of space there. Eldrago, at the RPMs that he spins around, will unleash an amazing amount of attacks on Kirby, to the point that Kirby's power absorption goes significantly down, because I'm not sure how Kirby's fighting 10,000 plus RPMs.
Well, actually,
If
what
every hit from 1 RPM takes away a bit of his power because it's a direct hit with him, how long does it take for a 10,000 RPM a second Beyblade or
what
more
you,
when it comes to launch speed to be
I
a
have to stop you right here because what you just described, like a vast dimension within Kirby, like can you look at scans really fast?
yeah,
Can you look in scans?
yeah, is Kirby in infinite space?
Yes, you can. There it is in scans.
That looks like there's things that are hittable inside of there. It doesn't look like an empty void, vacuous void.
Those
So
are apples.
As long as there is a target for Eldrago, as in a finite space that he can hit into at some point, Kirby's cooked. And Kirby does not have a infinite voidless space of things even inside of that universe, as proven by the picture you just showed.
No, those are things he's previously eaten. Those aren't a part of him. Only part of him is that vast black void that you look at. All those red spots are just apples he's previously eaten. Those are not part of him.
Mm-hmm. And
He apples
how would this
on.
have Eldrago lose the fight? Because if you're saying that things get sent to this dimension, right, and then boom, bye. How are these apples still? I'm just generally asking this. How are those apples still there in that case? Maybe I'm confused and not understanding you.
Well,
Like
that's
if the
just
argument is he gets sent to this dimension and then he gets obliterated and never exists again, how come all these apples are in that picture?
because he doesn't get rid of the apples. We've specified that not everything that goes into the dimension is erased. I've specified this.
And what's it called? What is the qualification to be erased? Is there certain things that can't be erased from that dimension?
No, it's simply if Kirby wants you to be erased or not. If he finds need for you to be there, then that it would
Oh
stay.
wait, so it's up to the will of Kirby.
Yes.
Oh, good game. The dark power wins because, again, as I said earlier in the conversation, the scaling for the Blader Spirit versus Power of Love is about 7 billion to the dark power, 1 to the power of love. And if it's affected based off of Kirby's will, and the dark power directly affects the user's will or whatever it's interacting with will, which is why we saw, and I'll send a scan right now, of Tsubasa post battle being overtaken by the dark power after fighting him and then losing control of whatever he's able to do love wise. He's one of the most loving characters, one of the most compassionate ones, turns into a fucking crash out after getting hit with a dark power, not able to decision make properly. So if we're going to go based off of that, this is on Kirby's will to do so, by taking in Eldrago, he's willingly taking in the dark power that will overtake him, as we've seen that it scales higher than the power of love. So if that's the case, then he can't even get off his ability if he takes in Eldrago, because he'll be consumed by the dark power before he's even able to kick it off.
That's again assuming that Kirby's power of love and his will is that of an average normal person's.
No, I'm not
Because
even saying.
Kirby's
No, I'm not even saying it's of an average normal person. It's with the assumption that it's either equivalent to or even stronger than the greatest Blader spirit inside of the anime, because the greatest Blader spirit inside of the anime, plus the entire population of the planet, including the other significantly talented Bladers on that planet, including the Celestial ones, including the Constellation Bladers, including the Season Bladers, including the Legendary Bladers, all of them would have been part of that Blader spirit as well, which are significantly more than the quote unquote average person. And that still only took out Ryuga with all that power combined by a sliver in the final battle due to plot armor for Jinga, who would have fallen off the rail had it not been for them needing him to win. So if we're going for this entire, oh, but we haven't scaled that power, yes, we have. You just refuse to accept that the power of love was another power that was shown inside of there. But even if you're saying you haven't scaled it, which I have, you haven't provided a scaling that shows that the power of love is greater than the dark power.
okay. Well, actually,
The majority of the arguments against the dark power being greater than the power of love is nuh-uh, without any other scaling.
well, in actuality, I do have something for that because of the dark hearts in Kirby is essentially exactly what you described. Kirby went on to then fight an ancient being that was stated to exist across multiple dimensions.
Hmm.
By the way, just for higher dimensionality context,
Okay.
stated across to exist across multiple dimensions, and then he beat that character solely by using the power of love, purely made out of negative energy and darkness. By the way,
Yeah.
I can send this in
Did
if you
that
would.
character that he fought have the ability to absorb power and energy?
Yes, actually.
Absorb it one for one.
Yes, that's exactly that's exactly what the cord inside of Void did.
Can you show me a panel of that?
Okay. Okay, this is going to require some slight context, but it's
Hmm.
going to be multiple scans. So this is Void before interacting with Kirby like itself, right?
Hmm.
So essentially what Void does is Kirby actually beats Void, but then what Void does is literally steal the power, copy the power from Kirby, turning it into what resembles something that comes from Kirby's species, dark matter. Dark matter and Kirby both originate from Void. This is not the same Void that they both originate from. They have the
Okay.
same. It's very complex.
Hmm.
And essentially what Void number 2 does is steal and copy and essentially improve on Kirby's biology and his power. This is why he has a form more similar to dark matter, despite the fact that Void number 2 has never canonically even met dark matter, let alone is aware of dark matter's existence.
Right. So I guess my main sticking point to this and letting you present that was this question: where can we see the power of love being used as a combat feat? Because we're talking about a fight. Where is the power of love used in combat? I can show panels where the dark power is a weaponized force. Where is the weaponization of the force of the power of love rather than being a thematic concept?
I can let me pull up the scan.
Because that's the main difference. If you can pull up a thematic concept as to why you won, sure. But if we're talking about a cross-verse fight that includes combat between El Drago and Kirby, the power of love is not a combat weapon. The dark power is. And if the dark power as a combat weapon takes over Kirby, the power of love is cooked. And if Kirby willingly inhales him to try to take him to that dimension, that's where the dark power overtakes. That's my argument.
Okay, hold on. Let me send the scan.
But then after this, when we finish talking about these next panels, then or the scans, we can go ahead and hit concluding statements.
Okay.
Okay, I see that scan. What's that scan doing?
It's just sending. It's another context scan. Let
Okay.
me send the other one for it. So we've already agreed that in this situation, the AI overview is a valid source point, correct?
We've agreed that it's a valid source point, correct. But we have not agreed that it is something that will wipe things out immaterially as it just says from reality.
Yes. So as long as it follows the canon material, then yes, it is being correct.
Wait, say that one more time?
So as long as it's not contradicting material, it would be correct in that statement, correct?
Define not contradicting material.
Going directly against what previous canon material was saying.
What previous canon material was set in place?
It's nothing for that. It's just for context because it's bringing up a term I haven't used yet.
Yeah, sure. So the only thing that I'll go against that is I'll agree with the definition that's given, which is it'll take things out of reality. The only thing I dispute in that definition is that when I asked for that specific scan, I was asking showing proof that it takes it out immaterially as well. Again, in this case, that's not sufficient proof for immateriality because again, things
Yo,
that are in
yo,
things.
yo, yo, yo,
Wait, wait,
yo.
wait. The reason I can say that is real easy, and I'll give you the analogy to do so.
Wait,
2 plus 2, conceptual numbers, not an actual thing in reality, immaterial.
BZ. I think
Yeah,
I'm
so,
tweaking, but he's literally just right now asking you if he can use AI overview, and you're like arguing with like a shadow point.
oh no, I'm
Like
not
he
arguing. Oh,
didn't
wait, I'm not
mention
trying to
that.
argue a shadow point. I'm just saying that I agree with the overview, but I want to clarify what I mean by agreeing to the term reality. Because I don't want to say I agree to the overview, and then we take a definition of reality that includes the immaterial, which is a key point in what I'm stating.
Okay, here's the first one,
Or
and then there's the second one.
Like
That's good
void term
game.
score.
Am I right in saying that's good game?
That's our friend hearts the power of love. Because it
Um,
says it says it represents it. It doesn't say that it is the power of love.
in one of the pause screens, it is called the power of love.
What he attacks with is called the power. He attacked with the power of love.
Yes.
Can I see that? Because if it says representing the power of love and friendship, I can say that a stick represents the bottle of vodka I had yesterday. That doesn't mean my stick is the bottle of vodka. And even in that definition given, showing, yes, Kirby attacks Void Terminus Core, his heart, with friend hearts, showing that that would be something directed towards the heart, meaning it's a projectile in that case. Well, that wouldn't work against El Drago because he just absorbs.
It's not a real. It's portrayed as a projectile, but it's a metaphysical thing. It's not a
Okay.
physical thing that you can like touch.
Okay, cool. So neither is a dark power, so I can agree there. That's not a physical thing you can touch. That one also is a weaponized attack, but it's immaterial, so I'll agree with you there. What I'm saying is, how does that negate El Drago absorbing it or the dark power itself? Because the most that you've given is the power of love being a thematic concept, but no proof of it actually being a weaponized attack that would be able to take out El Drago. Because the weaponized attack was the friendship hearts, which are representations, not the actual thing. In the same way that I stated, a stick that's the representation of a bottle of vodka is not a bottle of vodka. It's still a stick.
Okay, here.
But yeah, after this panel, I'll let you get off your last point and then go ahead and do your closing statement. I'll do my closing, and then we'll pass it to Saint.
Wait, hold on. Would you like the actual screen for it? I think I might be able to find it.
If you can, that'd be good. But if not, you can just send it later to prove something if you want, just to wrap it up faster. I know they've been tired of being here for a while.
If I remember, that's only in Japanese. I might still have it though. Does it being in Japanese like if it's only in Japanese with that like?
As long as if you have a credible translation for it, I'll take it.
I don't have a translation, but hold on.
We got any weebs in here that know Japanese?
Or you gotta ask
Bro,
like Chris, bro.
bro, why do we have a Japanese scan with no translation? How do you know what it says, bro?
Because I remember seeing a video on it. That's kind of how I get most of my Kirby scaling. I know.
I'd take the Japanese one, but only if I can get the translation with that one, because I need to know what it says. I can't read Japanese. I'm sorry.
Or maybe you got the YouTube video you got the scan from, where like the guy says what the
Yeah,
translation.
one of those ones. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. None of these are the right ones. Okay, I'm gonna have to look and find the pause screen.
And matter of fact, I'll just send a scan in myself here too, real fast.
If you want, while I'm looking for it, we can just go to conclusions.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm just gonna get a scan for my conclusion because that's gonna include something I haven't said yet, but just to kind of emphasize the point of something previously said. Let me see.
Maybe I can find the video for it. Hold on. I didn't see that video in like 3 years. So. Hold on, this kid's talking crap.
Okay. Here's the scan that I'm going to use there. Okay, so what's your scan?
It's the last one sent before yours.
Okay.
Yo, my Ethernet cable unplugged. Whoops.
What's the relevance of your scan, real quick? Just explain it to me real fast while I read it.
It explains that it directly states how Kirby's hearts are referred to as the power of love.
Well, it's again in the same definition it shows here. The in-game description and related official information highlight a strong contrast between the dark Jamba hearts and the positive power of friendship and love. That it's the positive power of friendship and love. It shows Kirby uses derived from the pink heart. Can be what was the search prompt people? It says, "Are Kirby's hearts have Kirby hearts and star allies the power of love?" And what was the second part that you put in there in the search bar? Sorry, I can't see it. It says, "Are Kirby's hearts and star allies the power of love?" And then there's a comma and then something else.
Is there a comma?
Yeah, it's like a comma and then DI something. I can't read the rest of it. Like, what did you put in the search for the AI overview?
Power of love. In the second or third scan. Oh, derived from the pink heart.
Yeah, so it's showing derived from the pink heart in the same way that you'll see, kind in the same way that you saw representation. For example, the third thing you'll see on the third bullet point where it says specifically, it includes the last point that we just talked about, which was the hearts that were used to defeat the void. Those hearts, we've already explained, are not the power of love. And that's what this section is trying to describe. Even though in the previous scan, it shows that it's a representation of the power of love and friendship and explicitly called that. Because if we look at the first scan, are explicitly called the friend hearts and represent the power of love or friendship.
It's saying it's saying love and friendship.
No,
So
correct. But what I'm saying is
right,
that if it's love and friendship, that's both representations by that own definition that you provided in your scan.
that just means it's being both at the same time. Those are
It
two.
means it's both being
They're
represented at the same time. It doesn't mean it's in reality that at the same time. In the same way, I can have two sticks, one representing whiskey, one representing vodka. Doesn't mean that they're actually whiskey and vodka just because they're representations.
well, in that situation, you would see those two sticks as individually vodka and whatever the
You
other
would
thing.
see them as such. That doesn't make them such. An illusion does not make things such.
But in that hypothetical, which we are in fact describing a hypothetical, this would
Uh-huh.
never actually happen because these are two different continuities that one of which has stopped making media almost entirely. Um this by definition is a hypothetical, therefore hypothetical should be considered.
Yeah, I believe hypotheticals should be considered, but not with the inconsistencies that you've provided so far. A representation is not the actual, and you keep conflating those two. And by conflating a representation as the actual, you're arguing that the representation is the actual when it's not. And because it's not the actual or an actual physical force used against El Drago, but a representation of a force used against El Drago, it's nothing. And on top of that, that's emotions, that it would be the power of love and all that stuff. What do you think El Drago fed off the entire show? So, like, if we're going with this, again, we're going with this argument. We'll start the concluding statements here. I'll say my piece, and you can say your piece.
Okay.
For my piece in the concluding statements, I want to make it clear that throughout the debate, I've consistently demonstrated that most of the most quote unquote effective ways that Kirby would be able to quote unquote stop or counter